athletes turned therapists. Our focus in these episodes is to humanize the athlete experience beyond the lines of their arena. In this podcast, we will explore the whole athlete, highlighting the mental, emotional, and social aspects of their journey.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Millennium Athlete Wellness Podcast. Today we are joined with a very special guest. I've actually known her for most of my life. We are joined by Hannah Stutts, who is a current NFL cheerleader with the Tennessee Titans, and we're just going to discuss all things life, sport, and finding identity within who you are, not what you do. Hannah, welcome.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited.
This is the best day ever. I really feel like, Hannah was actually my little in our sorority at Mississippi State, and she is the light of my life. She's just absolutely incredible. She brings so much joy into wherever she is, but she's also inspiring because she has managed to balance and juggle so many things. I was always seeing you run around campus, and I kind of feel like that's how you are now. Like, tell me, what has life been like after graduating?
Well, listen, before I get started, I have to brag on Amelia because she was a role model and she did 3 times as much as I did on campus. So when you have someone like that to look up to and motivate you to get involved and to go to every nick and corner and cranny on campus to try and get yourself involved and meet people from all walks of life and all, different kinds of backgrounds, I had someone that kind of paved the way for me. So I have to brag on her first. Okay, wait. Ask me again what I was supposed to be saying.
Okay. No, just like what has life looked like after graduating? What are you up to?
Yes. Life is truly amazing right now. Me and Miller were just talking about that before we got started. I graduated May 2023, obviously from Mississippi State. I got my degree in broadcast and digital journalism. My focus was kind of like communication, media studies. And yeah, I actually came back to Huntsville. I was born and raised in Huntsville, Alabama. And if you would have asked me at graduation, that was the last thing I wanted to do. But I'm so grateful because I was able to just grow so much as a human being last year. So yeah, came back to Huntsville. I worked for a year, just kind of took a step away from college and gave myself time to breathe. Like both of us did in college, I felt like we did so much that we might have even overcommitted ourselves. And we were so caught up with everything that we were involved in at the time, which is, again, phenomenal. I would go back and do it 100 times over. Once you hit that graduation point, you're like, what do I do with my life? Like, what do I want to do? Like, do I want to use my degree? Like, should I have done something different? Just kind of getting that like crazy mindset of like, did I do everything up until this point? Was like, is this my plan? So I moved back home and I actually got a job working for a podcast, a tourism podcast. It was called Hello Huntsville. And what that podcast did is it just focused on local restaurants, business owners, musicians, artists, anything you can name, think of, we most likely interviewed them. And it gave me great practice to interview people and speak in front of a camera. And it also just allowed me to get to know things about Huntsville that I didn't know. I've been born and raised here, been here my entire life. And I found out stuff like we have a coffee trail and a craft cocktail trail. And we just highlighted things that say whether you were born and raised, a local, you were visiting Huntsville, moving to Huntsville. We would create these videos, post them to social media, and just be like an educational platform just to help people navigate Huntsville and, just talk about the incredible things it has to offer. So I did that and I took a break from life. I think my life, even leading up to college, was very chaotic and crazy. And so I had never kind of gone at life at a slow pace. And so I took that last year to do that. And then April of 2024, that March, April time period, I tried out for the NFL. I tried out for the Tennessee Titans and I made the team. And so, from then I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I have been cheering in the NFL for the last year. So I just wrapped up my season in February and the tryout process is about to start again. And so that's where we are today.
That's where you are. I'm so proud of you. I feel like being able to take a pace that was slower must have been really hard. I feel like that's something we see with a lot of the athletes we work with because your life is so scheduled and every minute you have something you're supposed to be doing. It kind of falls into the hands of others. and you just go where you're told. And so to become the own orchestrator of your life probably took a lot of like, whoa, I have no idea what I'm doing. There's probably like a lot of uncomfortability with that factor. What would you say, like, if you had to pick one word to describe that season of your life, what would it be?
I mean, obviously, I think every person would probably say growth because you know, you think you have it all figured out when you graduate, but you really
Yeah.
that like I said, that's like the most lost that you're at in your life. And I had just a lot of things going on at that time, whether it was dance or whether it was school or relationships, like whatever it might be. I was just like kind of all over the place and felt like I was on the hamster wheel. And so I know that's not one word now that I think about it. My word was growth because I was forced to basically like stop in my tracks and stop in my path
Mm,
and breathe for a second. And I needed to grow as a person mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually before I could start the next part in the next chapter of
yeah.
my life. And so mine would for sure be growth.
I love that. Okay, I want to go back. So let's start freshman, well, I guess senior year of high school, knowing you were going to Mississippi State. What inspired you to want to become a student athlete and try out for the dance team?
So this is kind of a crazy story. I, at the time, had transitioned from like studio competition training to like more industry training. Did a lot of things individually, me and my brother, auditions, agents, industry world. That was the life that I had been in all of high school.
Yeah.
And I knew no matter what, college was going to be an option. But on top of like college and dance, I've also had a passion for sports for many, many years. I grew up in a very, sports loving family, especially football season. And so I knew that like career wise, separate from dance, I wanted to work in sports. And so when I made the decision that Mississippi State was going to be my home and like that's where I saw myself, I actually was not planning on trying out for dance team. I was actually kind of more in the mindset of like, you know what? Maybe it's time to take a step back from dance. I've done this my entire life. I really want to deep dive into my career. You know,
Mm.
so much of this day and time is networking. A majority of it is not where you went to school and what you got your degree in. It's who you know and what experience you have. Obviously, if you're not, trying to go to med school or law school, different story. But I knew that was not what I was going to do. And so I was like kind of going in with that mindset of, I want to do this major. I want to work in athletics. I'm going to have to work my way from the bottom up. Like I'm going to have to start carrying cable cords, but like I want to be in front of the camera one day, like where my mind was at. And just kind of randomly, there was a huge program change happening my senior year. And they really started to advertise like clinics and tryouts. And I had actually made it to a couple of football games that year. And I had honestly not been I would make it to maybe one game a year because we were always traveling for dance. And I was really impressed with where they were taking the dance team. And I was like, you know what?
Mm,
Maybe I'll just go to a clinic, see, I'll like it, maybe not like it, whatever. So I go to a clinic in the fall, fell in love with it. I was like, maybe this is something I want to do. Fast forward, we get to spring, they have another clinic, and this clinic is geared more towards like a tryout clinic. And I was like, I'm going to go again. I really think I should. I don't want to have a what if moment on down the road. So I did. And that's when I was like, okay, yes, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I want to make this team. This is what we're going to do. From that point on, I got locked in, focused training, getting back in, you know, a dance team shape. I was coming from that very stylized industry world and I had not really held a pair of palms. And if you know dance, sideline palm is its own style, it's its own world, it's very unique in itself. And so that's like the mindset I was in. Try out in May of my senior year and I make the team and I was like, all right, this is God's plan for me. And I was like, but I'm only going to do this one year. I'm only going to do this one year. Cause again, still in that mindset of like, I want to work in sports. I'm not going to be able to balance both. I'm going to have to pick one or the other. I really am like passionate about my career. That's what we're going to do. And then fast forward to March of my freshman year, COVID hits. And to
yeah.
make this long story short, 1 year on the dance team turned into 4 years. I was captain my senior year. And that's kind of how my journey to becoming a student athlete happened.
What did your like day to day look like as a student athlete? Like, I know personally what it looked like for you, but tell the listeners, like, what time you woke up, what you were going to, when class was, when practice was, like all the things.
Yes. So obviously, every team in college, in the NFL, in the NBA, whatever it is, their schedules are going to be different, but majority are very similar. For us, I started my day at 4:50 every morning. Practice would start at 5:30, and for us, we had to do conditioning on our own. So we started every single practice. We ran a timed mile as a unit, as a team. You'd be up studying, driving through campus. You see the dance team running through the junction. So we would do our runs. We'd come in and we'd do our conditioning, and so we'd have a 2-hour practice. So we would go 5:30 to 7:45 in the mornings. I would then have to schedule and go to all my classes. But as a student athlete, obviously, they schedule your classes around your practice times. Well, for us, we would have to practice in the morning because depending at what season of the year we're in,
Yeah.
you know, basketball, baseball season, we have games at night. So, like, we obviously can't have classes that go late into the afternoon and the early evening because you got tip offs, you got first pitches, like, you've got games and appearances to be at. So, yeah, we practiced 4 or 5 days a week, depending on what was going on. Obviously, we danced every single home game for football seasons, and then they took a travel squad to post game, no matter what that might look like. We danced all home men's and women's basketball games, and then we danced all home Friday, Saturday series baseball games. So a lot of people don't know, it's like we're a year-round sport because
Yeah.
even when baseball season is happening, you're having to reach out for the team again. It's not like most sports, like where you get recruited, like that's it. Okay, I say that to say this whole process of like trying out versus recruiting is changing since I have tried out my
Mm.
freshman year. So that's kind of a whole topic in itself. But back when I was a freshman, from junior, senior, you had to retry out every single year. And so your season didn't stop. Like your off season in the summer was you were having to learn material, get ready because once you hit August 1st, like that's your hail week. That's like what we called it.
Yeah.
What normal fall camp would be for football season. And you're getting ready for that first game. And so, yeah, it was hard.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Crossover season's really hard because, once basketball season starts in October, those early preseason games, you're in 2 to 3 because you have men's and women's. You could be cheering anywhere from like 2 to 3 basketball games during the week. A football game takes up your whole weekend. You have to throw clinics in there. You got to work clinics for future prospects of the team. And then, once February hits, that's basketball, baseball. You're hitting March Madness. So then you're there 4 nights a week. You're cheering. You're like running from the hump, cheering a basketball game to like a baseball game or vice versa. So kind of crazy. A lot of people don't realize how much goes into it.
No, I wanted you to like mention that because I feel like when people picture a student athlete, they picture a football player, they picture a basketball player. They're not picturing these dancers who are in season like year round. Like you're going constantly. I mean, I got a front row seat to that, seeing you go like back to back to back to back to back every single day. And when I think of student athletes, like I think of you because I'm like, that is intense. There is no off season, there is no break, there is no time to prioritize your mental health, your physical health. Like you're constantly in rotation to something new. And I just was kind of curious, how did you prioritize mental health or did you? Were you able to?
Right. It was really hard. And I, like, being completely honest, like, I had moments. I had moments where I lost my mental health. I had moments where I was, you know, would get so caught up and so overwhelmed that I was prioritizing everything else before myself to kind of touch, like, on, I guess, the POV of like a student athlete as far as like cheer or dance or something like that is, in our sport on top of how incredibly hard it is, you have to make it look so easy. Like as
Mm.
a dance, you have to make it look like anyone can do it. And I think the hardest, proponent for a lot of that stuff is, you know, in college, like that's your college team. Those are your friends on the field, on the court. When injury happens, when games are close, when you're losing, when you have to deal with the weather. It's hard. And, when we're in uniform, we always have to be smiling. And like our job and our role is to keep the fans in good spirits, to keep the team in good spirits, like to keep ourselves in good spirits. And, you can't show that emotion like when you're upset, when a ref didn't
Mhm.
call play right, or your best friend just got a career season injury, or, you have to
Yeah.
remain in ups. And like, that's hard. That weighs on you mentally. Exhaustion is a big thing. I know for me, a lot of conversations that me and you had in college is you have to be so good at finding time management, and like that work life balance was never level for me. And of course, I wanted to be involved in so much. So I would just cram and cram and cram and cram. And there were times that I know I wasn't doing a good job at everything. And there's times like I look back and I'm like, oh gosh, if I could have just gone back and worked a little harder at this or prioritized this more, you're just like, and then you just start going and going and going. And like, I had a lot of hard moments. I had a lot of failures. I mean, I had a lot of wins and a lot of successes, but
Yeah. No, I feel like uh, athlete mental health has been in people's minds and topics of conversation for like the last 10 years. Athlete mental health seems to like just now be a topic of conversation. And I think it's because, something I see as someone who never really was an athlete, but was always a fan, is you get on Twitter after a game or you get like you see in people's group chats after a game, you're dogging on these individuals who are kids. You have like adult men who are like trash talking these kids. And I think something that, you probably experience or that we see is like you as a cheerleader and as a dancer, you're being judged on your appearance and how you're being seen and how you're being perceived. And we already live in such a comparison culture. I'm sure that that takes such a mental toll, and like you're saying, you can't even show it. So you probably got so good at being like, "I don't even really know how I actually feel in this moment because I've been told that I need to mask that for so long."
yeah, you really learn over time. And even before college, just like there's so much good to, and like you find so much joy because you love what you do, and you will do anything to be able to dance or cheer or whatever that might be. But you learn to compress and numb and bury and bury and bury because there's so much more at stake that like you over time start to put yourself last. Just kind of hearing you say that, a lot of questions that I get kind of relating to mental health, especially us as like spirit squad members, cheerleaders, dancers, is, body image is a big topic
Mm,
of discussion because, and that's all stemmed from like what we wear and what our uniform is.
yeah.
And, naturally, we do extensive physical training. Again, the wear and tear on your bodies after so many years, trust me, it is not as easy as it was at 18. As freshly 24, my body doesn't move the way that it used to. And I'm feeling the years and years of training and dancing and just go, go, go. And so, every dancer is physically in shape. You have to, yeah, you just are. How much training you put into it. But a lot of dancers, cheerleaders develop mentally. I don't look good enough. I don't look good enough in this uniform. It doesn't fit me right. Like a photographer, we're taught, dance as if someone's taking a picture of you at every single second. If you get, it's so easy to be so hard on yourself. And I think that's where a lot of like mental health problems stem from. Just even like what we wear and, it can be a lot. And like another thing from that is like you were talking about, say someone has a bad game and people are automatically like talking about it, you know, they can very, and this is very prevalent, especially in where I'm at now, is like if you even like are in a resting position while an active play is going on and you don't smile for 1 second and a photographer, someone takes a picture of you and you might look the least bit mad, they take that picture, they write up this whole article about you, like so and so feels this way about the game. Like it's so you're constantly like under like a microscope, and
Yeah.
it's really easy to get caught up in all of that. And so that is a big topic of conversation in mental health in the world that I'm in. So,
Yeah. What do you feel like what were, if any, support systems that you had in college, specifically being a student athlete?
oh, well, obviously I'm a very faithful person. Obviously, I have Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and He gave me the gift of dance. He gave me this talent. and he doesn't just give dreams to anyone for no reason. And so when everything was kind of, I felt like was in shambles or I wasn't doing my best, like I would go to God first and be like, God, like it's gotten to a point that I'm like no longer in control. This over to you. I know there's a reason I'm here. I know there's a purpose in this. I might not know what that is now, but like all I ask is that you wake me up and you help me take this one step at a time, like even down to the minute. Like whatever today brings, like I need you to walk with me through this every step of the way. Obviously, I have incredible parents. Sorry, I'm going to move this over because the light's kind of catching. I have a phenomenal support system. I have parents that showed me and took me all over this country to get any type of training, auditions. They wanted me to be exposed to all the elements. So when the time did come, and whether I did want to go into the industry or go into the college student athlete world, like they wanted me to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. They wanted to give me all the resources that I could going into it, no matter what my dream or my passion was. And so they were always so supportive. They are what really kept me sane. Like when I would question, like, is this the right thing? Like, should I still do this? Like they were listening ears. They showed up for every single game, every single appearance. You know, I have had an incredible support system. I had incredible coaches. I had incredible people like you. I really did get so blessed to have so many good people around me. And I will say, like, looking back, I don't think I always did the best at expressing and paying it back to the people that always had my back and were always there for me, like when I didn't even know what was going on. And so it was, I truly did just have, I know I keep saying that, but I just can't even emphasize enough, like how many good people I had in my life and held my hand and walked with me every step of the way.
Yeah, I think a lot of student athletes, like, we see so many athletes in general are like spiritual people. And I think it's because they really need something to like cling on to because it gets so tough. And a lot of times I feel like you feel very deserted. You feel very alone. You feel very kind of, you were talking like under a microscope all the time. And so like that's a safe place. Like having some form of like a religious connection can be so healing. And I think now that student mental health and athlete mental health is becoming more of a conversation, I think a lot of people are learning how to be better support systems, which is really necessary. I mean, you need support. That's like it's very your student career at Mississippi State looked so different than just like your average Joe. Not to say average Joe didn't have tough times too.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just such a different playing field. And I don't know, I just give such props to the athletes we work with, to athletes like you, especially those who are trying to figure out, okay, this is something that I'm so passionate about. This is something that's so intertwined with who I am, but it's not everything. And that's kind of, I feel like, the journey that you've been on these last few years, especially. Like, what has it looked like transitioning out of that student athlete mold that was formed to you for so long?
I'm going to say, and just being 100% honest, it has been the hardest thing. The hardest thing
Mm,
because I know for myself and so many other student athletes, you allow it to become your full identity.
yeah.
And that's what you build your platform off. Social media is such a prevalent thing in today's time. Everyone is building social media platforms. Social media just magnifies that I'm a student athlete. This is all I
Mm,
do. This is all I can do. Point blank, Hannah Stutts, dance team or dancer, whatever. So when I graduated and that chapter of my life was over and there was period, turn the page, it was so hard because in the moment, I did not even realize how much I allowed it to become my identity until it was kind of like taken away from me. It's almost like I was like, oh my gosh, like who am I? Like how am I supposed to go about life?
yeah.
And, it was not my plan to come home. I did not want to come home. Looking back, it was the absolute smartest, the best thing I could have done because I was back. I had my family. Again, they could walk me through this life after dance team, after being a student athlete, life after college, because student athlete or not, like that identity in itself is so hard. Post grad is the most confusing. I feel like we're all walking around with blinders on. We were just talking about it. No one really knows what they're doing with their life.
No
They're
one
just
does.
like going through the motions and like hoping they get somewhere, some way, somehow, someday. And it was really hard. And, I think it's so cool what you're doing and what your career is because I lived in therapy and it was so bad for me. And like, I don't really share a lot of this with people, but like, I'm so glad I can get on here and share this now because like, I want to be an inspiration for someone. And if someone that's listening to this is needing this, like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
I was in therapy not just once, but I was in therapy twice a week for a year. From the week after I moved home from Mississippi State up until the week that I moved to Nashville, like a whole calendar year, I was in therapy twice a week because I had allowed myself to tell myself that like the only worth I had was when I was a member of a dance team and a member of being a student athlete.
Mm,
And forget like the 4-year degree that I graduated with and that I worked so hard to get. I just fully consumed into that world. And I kind of didn't think my life was over, but I was like, how do I move forward? How are like, that's all I've allowed myself to be like, are people gonna, you know,
yeah.
and that's what also I had to learn too through therapy is it's like, you owe no one an explanation. If you have to go to therapy 5 days a week, you owe no one an explanation.
Mhm.
Every person walks their own path. Every person experiences their own things. And so it was not easy. It was very hard. But, I had to chug through the trenches to get to where I am today. And no, in no way, shape, or form was I mentally ready to do that and like move to a big city right out of college. And I know that now. And I'm so proud of myself for not doing that and for going home and working through that. And it was hard. It was very hard. It was
Yeah, I'm
hard.
so proud of you, and I'm so glad that you're sharing this. I feel like, you know, I think my first, like, recollection of athletes admitting they're having a hard time was Simone Biles in the, like, 2021 Olympics,
Yeah.
which should have been yeah, and she was talking just about how, like, no one tells you you're allowed to prioritize this, so if you're gonna hear it once from me, you're gonna hear it. And something I feel like I tell a lot of my clients is we're kind of taught that life is this linear stair step experiment. Like there are all these things we're supposed to check off. There are all these accomplishments we're supposed to get. And if we just keep moving, we'll be fine. And I've started to help them reframe, like, I think it's very circular. You're going to go up and down and around 1,000 times and you're going to keep moving. And that's the important part is you're going to keep moving. Because I think when we see it as linearly, when we take a stop, we're like, my God, I'm not moving. Like nothing's happening. Like
Yeah.
what's next? And you get
Yeah.
so ashamed of your own being, of your own living, of your own experience. And so allowing them to kind of see it as like, you're just constantly moving, even if you don't know what direction you're going in. You're going to go up and around and down 1,000 more times. And accepting that, I feel like, has been a really good thing for a lot of athletes to experience and to know and to hold true. And I'm really proud of you for just feeling vulnerable enough in this space to be like, actually, this is terrible. I really hated this season of my life, but I learned so much from it.
So much. And I truly like kind of live like by that saying is like at that moment, I felt like I was in such a dark place because I was like everything just ended and I felt like I was like left and I didn't know like what to do. But like I am here to say that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And one day all of the pieces do start falling into place without you even realizing it. You wake up one day and you're like, wow, like I get it now. I get it. I get why this was my journey. And so it's, yeah, exactly like you said. Once you accept it and realize that it's okay to feel that way, that's when the growth starts to happen.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess bouncing off of that, then what was it like to then transition back into this world of like being on a stage, of being on an NFL field every Sunday?
Amelia, it was like, it has been the most rewarding season in so many
Oh.
ways, not just on the field, like off the field, like personally. And I say that I've been telling so many people lately, if something were to happen and I were to get off this phone call and tomorrow will come and I were not to do this any, like this, my year career season, whatever you want to call it was over, I would truly walk away from this so blessed, so fulfilled, so happy. I would be ending it on such a positive note. I, you know, college is a weird time period for so many. You grow so much. Like you go in as a kid, and really you're still a kid when you graduate, but you grow so much as a person from your freshman year to your senior year.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got so much going on with school and trying to keep up grades, and you've got your other clubs and organizations that you're in, and you're trying to figure out like who you are as a person, and that like weighs and weighs and weighs. And like I said, I had the most incredible college experience. I had the most incredible dance team. But to navigate this to the pros and like the team that I've been on this past year, the most incredible support system, so uplifting, such inspiring people. Like, I have people on my team that are lawyers, that are ER nurses, that are educators, that are realtors, teach like who such inspiring people that balance a 9 to 5 and then come to practice and then cheer on the weekends and are, you know, married or what. There's just like the broad range of life just gets so much bigger. And just, I was so rewarded both on and off the field that I truly have had the absolute best experience this past year as a rookie.
Oh, that's so awesome. I feel like that's something that my coworker Lily and I talked about a few weeks ago. We have this like dating series that we're doing. We talked about how like a lot of times college can kind of feel like this container where you're constantly competing with people because you're wanting to achieve a lot of the same goals. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's the unhappiest you'll ever be because you're trying to achieve something that somebody else wants. It's not really internally what you want.
Right.
And it's so great that you're looking at this team that you're on now and it's like, you're all doing different things and I don't want those things, but I'm happy for you to have those things. It's not necessarily like this container where we have to compete for the same things over and over again. And instead, it's kind of like this threshold encouragement that you've been able to reach to be like, no, like I'm excited for you to be in a life that you're living. And also, we have this thing in common that we can root for each other for, which is dance. And it's become really powerful for you.
Yes. And I will say it's been really cool because, it all, again, college, you're in somewhat of the same age range. The team that I was on this past year, the youngest was 18, the oldest was 31. Okay, that is such different points of life that you're at.
Yeah.
And it was just so cool to like just compare and contrast and like to see like the older teammates of mine be like leaders and like help people through things that were like, freshly 18, 19, 20. And then like those of us that were like in the middle, like we had experienced, we graduated from college, but we've not yet hit that mid to later 20s. Like it's just like, it's such a cool experience because you're on so many different walks of life and you're at so many different points of life, but like you share that same common goal and love and passion. And you can, like you said, uplift each other, support each other. There's no I in team. Like it's just, you know, not only that, my coaches, my directors, the people that work around our team, the whole system that makes it go round was just, it's been absolutely incredible.
Oh, that's so awesome. Do you feel like you're surrounded by people who also like prioritize or I guess advocate for you to like take care of yourself mentally as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think what's really cool is that before we even start our season, we have all different kinds of trainings, mental health. Like we have all these different resources that they provide from us. Like from the minute the team is announced, they are kind of like, here's your resources. Like we are here. Like, and I think what's really cool about the team I'm on in particular is when I got to the finals round of tryouts last year, it was in person. And, I had taken a year off. Of course, mentally, I was in my head. Do I still have this in me? Can I even do this? Like, am I too old? Am I in shape? Am I not in shape? Like, you know, all of those things race in your mind. And when I got there and got to Nashville and got to the stadium, I was still like, okay, am I supposed to do this? Like, God, I really need you to give me a sign. Like, am I supposed to be here? And if this is not my plan for you, please reveal that to me. I need you to help me and walk me through this. And something that stuck out so much to me is our director, the first meeting we had before we started the first practices, she said, we are so thankful that you guys are here. I want to start by saying, yes, we are trying to see if you fit our team, but we also want to make sure that we fit you and your life.
Mm.
And, yes, this is NFL cheerleading, but at the end of the day, this is a job. This is a career. You are coworkers. Yes, we support each other as a family would, but you get paid to be here and we do treat it as a job. And in that moment, that was like, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to do. Because, I will say this. I think sorority is the absolute coolest thing. I think sisterhood is so beautiful. I think a lot of teams in pros and in college can sometimes develop a sorority like aspect. And I think it's really easy for drama to circulate and people to get pitted against each other. And it was not like a sorority sisterhood. It was like, this is a job, this is a career. And that is what gave me so much validation. And I feel like I'm kind of trailing off. But just like hearing that, that was like, okay, yes, I'm supposed to be here. This is what I want to do. This is the team I want to try out for and represent. And this is the organization that I want to be a brand ambassador for. And it's
Yeah.
great.
You could tell they kind of like cared about you as a person, not as just like
Yes.
a member of this entity. Like they wanted you to be just as happy with them as they wanted to be with you.
Yes. And like for us, we go through an interview process and you have to submit, your business application just as you would your entertainment resume, or I'm sorry, your business resume and your entertainment resume, because they're like our director, she's going to ask you, what is your 5, 10 year, like, what is your long-term goal?
Yeah.
What do you want to do in life outside of this? And it's just so cool because they truly do care about you as people and as a person before as a cheerleader. And so I just think that is like speaks volumes about
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at in life now.
What would you say, like, or how, I guess, do you think athletes or people with these massive platforms can advocate for mental health, especially like going back to the mental health level or necessity as a student athlete? Like, how can they advocate it now as a pro?
I think, and I feel like I haven't touched on this enough too, because I want to highlight this as well. In college, I think colleges do a really good job now of providing resources. I think they did beforehand, but especially like since the pandemic hit, and that created such a unorganized sense of life. And the pandemic hit, is they do a really good job of providing resources, providing people to talk to. Like if something's going on, don't keep it safe. Like we have people here that will walk you through whatever you're going through in life. And I think from college that has very much stemmed over within the pros. I think the biggest thing is, I know it's so hard. It's so hard coming, on a public platform, on a social media platform, whatever it might be, and speaking out about the experiences you've gone through, about the dark times, about the mental health, about like it's like student athletes and pro athletes make it look so easy and only highlight the good stuff and don't really talk about like the bad. And like sometimes the day to day, it's not as always easy as it appears to be. But like just being a voice and just
Mm,
being able to tell your story and like open up to people and just being real and raw. I think a lot of life these days is very much staged and faked and glamorized and glossed over. And I think just like coming on and just like being real and speaking from the heart is like the best thing that you can do to advocate for any pro athlete, young athlete, gosh, not even in college, even high school and early youth, just like sharing your story. I think that is like
yeah.
what I've learned hearing other people's story. It is like inspire me and like, you know what? Hear what this person went through or this athlete went through or this and this and this. Like it's really, you know, I know for me, and like, you were there when it happened, not once, but twice. But I got so overwhelmed that I got Bell's palsy, not once.
Hmm.
And mine was stemmed from stress because I was overcommitted and I was not prioritizing myself and I was not sleeping and I was not eating and I was not taking care of my health before anything else. And that was, again, majority of the reason why I came home after college because
Yeah.
I also needed to heal and I needed to see medical professionals and get myself healthy before I could pursue any career, any dream in life.
Yeah.
And I hid that for a long time. The first time, especially, I was embarrassed by it. I was horrified by it. I didn't want anyone to know because I'd been trained my whole life to like always try and be perfect and always put on this like, you know, everything is good. Like we're always
Yeah.
smiling and happy. And like it took me, coming home meeting with these medical professionals, explaining the reasons of what caused that to a therapist, talking and being like, you know what? Rather than run from this and hide from this, let's speak on it. Because there are so many
Mm,
people that have experienced this that don't know what to do, don't know how to handle it. And I think, obviously I would not want to go through and relive that again. But I truly feel like I went through that to be an advocate and to be a voice. And, at the beginning of this month, it was Facial Paralysis Awareness Week. And I made a couple of clips on my social media just highlighting it and speaking out about it and being like, listen, I've hid from this for too long. Like, this is my story. This is who I am. This is what happened to me. And I want to be a source, a resource to people. Like, I want to inspire someone. And I've gotten so many people from all over, all walks of life, student athlete or not, in this country, out of this country, all different like ages. The most rewarding thing is just being able to share my story and be a
mm.
light to someone and give someone a little sense of hope. And that's kind of like has like what shaped me and like what got me here. And so I hid from it for so long. So to answer your question, like if you were someone that has been through things or going through things on your time, on your time, don't be afraid to hide from it. That's like what shapes us into human beings. That's like what shapes us outside of our sport. And just being able to share and be an inspiration to someone because someone out there is going through the exact same thing that you are. And you might be that person's last hope and not even realize it. So,
Yeah. Oh, you're an inspiration to me. I'm so proud of you. You really have this last year. I just feel like, man, I constantly am stalking your TikTok because you're so radiant and have so much to share and you use your platform for such good. And I feel like, all over, especially, I mean, mainly because of the profession I'm in, but I'm seeing there's a need for it. Like people want to be able to see, I think you're told your whole life you have to be this pillar of strength for your fans and your audience and now for your followers. And it's like, no, a little bit of weakness actually goes a really long way because people want to be able to humanize the ones they look up to. And I really feel like you've taken that by storm and I'm so proud of you. My last question is more of like, I'm just really interested about this. So, growing up in SEC land, football, college football is very important. It's like our heart.
very important. Very
Being
important.
in Chicago, like NFL is the most important thing ever. Like they take it so seriously here. How did you go from like being an SEC girly to being in the NFL?
I am so happy you asked me this question because boy, is it a different world. It might be the exact same sport, but it is a daylight and dark difference. It is so funny because I have over this past year been able to meet so many other cheerleaders across all 32 teams. Well, not every team has NFL cheerleaders. I've met so many people, whether it be NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, whatever, and just like hearing stories. And it's so funny because I'm like, you know, I said this in my interview. Listen, I am from Huntsville, Alabama. I said, I am from Alabama. I went to school in Mississippi. I come from a house heavily divided. College football, we eat, sleep, and breathe it. We revolve our lives around it. Like that's
1000%.
who we are. And the pros is a whole different ballgame. College football fans versus NFL fans it is wild. And I'd already always heard so much about it. My parents have, lived on the West Coast. They lived out in California and they talked about what pro games to them on Sundays were what college football games were on Saturdays for us. And it's so funny because and I've made a lot of my teammates come from worlds where they are strictly pro fans. Friends that I've made like in dance way before college, like that I did auditions with, and we live all over the world. It's so funny because like the whole group of us that became kind of a unit all went off to college and all danced at all these different colleges all around the country. And it's so funny because they all came from families and environments where it was like Eagles, like just with the Eagles winning, I have two very, very dear friends now that are Eagles cheerleaders. And I got to experience firsthand
Oh my gosh.
Eagles fans. And it's also so funny because, and not to get off track, but like in Nashville, we have a great following. We have a great fan base. But Nashville is such a diverse city, so many people are moving to Nashville. Titans had a rebrand of the whole organization not too long ago. They're in the process of building a new stadium. There's so much more to come with that. And so it's just, you get a lot of mixed crowds. But when you have an NFL team whose fans travel, the Minnesota Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, I'm just trying to think of other teams where it was like, this is wild. Talk about, yes, there's some similarities, but cheering in college and a college atmosphere versus cheering in the NFL and a pro atmosphere, so different. So
You
different.
can hear, I'm in the Lincoln Park area, and I feel like on Sundays I can hear,
Oh, I know the
from
Bears.
Soldier Field.
Listen, I know the Bears have a fitness, and but I laugh. You see the Bills, they have 12 feet of snow, and they have people actively volunteering to go clear out the stadium, and they're having snowball fights when they win a game. The Vikings have this skull chant that I had never experienced in my life until they played in Nashville this year, and I was like,
oh, I know. Yeah, no, it's insane.
it is insane.
I thought we were extra for having cowbells. No, we don't even hit the surface.
We don't even scratch the surface. And, all these other opposing college teams, you say loud and proud that you're from Mississippi State, and you ring that cowbell whenever you can, and everyone's like, what's a cowbell? It's like, when everyone just needs to go pick an NFL team. And
there's something crazy about them.
If the cowbells were that bad.
I promise they're not. They're wonderful. I have mine sitting on my desk. They are.
They are God's music. That's what I say.
Well, Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing a little bit about your story. You have been such a blessing today, and we're so good seeing you.
It's a blessing to be on here, and thank you for reaching out to me, and thank you for bringing me on the show and sharing just a little bit about my story. I love you, and you are still and will always be an inspiration to me. And so I was actually fangirling when you asked me to come be on this. So this was truly a blessing.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.